God. Welcome to the Reese Report. I'm the mouth of the North, Andrew Reese, and as you can see, I'm in a great mood as I'm being joined by my friend Hopeful Maple. I am just like I'm always happy to be joined by this man as we have a good laugh before the show starts. Um, I didn't get a chance to have Hopeful on the show after free agency. We talked about the draft, and I wanted to have him on to get his thoughts on this chaotic, absolutely crazy candidate the Raptors had, along with different moves that happened, impact of free agency, and what this means for the Raptors next season. Hopeful, how are you? Are you ready to get tested here?
I mean, it depends on what I'm being tested on. That can mean a whole lot of things in this day and age. But yeah, I'm more or less I'm ready.
Well, you know me, I'm the most of the North, so I like to grill people. So get ready. Now I'd like to know. The Raptors did a lot during free agency, Mr. Hopeful. Yak
That they
decided to
did.
stay. Fred took the bag, which I would too, by the way. I'm an accountant. I know what $13 million difference is in salary. We also replaced him with Dennis Schrader, along with Jaden McDaniels, and we drafted the lovely Grady Dick. Uh, what did you think of this crazy candidate that happened, and how do you think it'll work out for the Raptors?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we did a pretty good job of recovering. So there's that. If you look at the initial how it played out, I think the Raptors, in hindsight, if they're being honest with themselves, will wish that they were a little bit more proactive. I think the one move that you didn't talk about was losing Banton, um,
I
which
was going to
was
get to
kind of
that.
a yeah. So that was the unfortunate one. I talked to, I'm not going to say the name, but I talked to someone who's in the the proper media space, so to speak, and they even said like, yeah, this is not a good look. So we'll see. I will also say that anyone who is wishing um any of the players that are leaving our teams like bad luck or anything weird like that, you need to support uh to take a page out of Samson Folks page or book. Um I'm pro labor. I think you always got to be pro the little guy, and I'm always going to support the players above all, as long as they're not doing anything that is nefarious. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Fred's story is a great story. There's no
it is.
question. It's a great story. An undrafted guy who worked his way up, became a valuable piece to a championship roster, got an MVP vote from the great Hugh B. Brown. It just became a money situation. It's as simple as that. He took an
He bet
offer
on
that,
himself, right?
yeah, he bet on himself. He took an offer he couldn't refuse, and I wouldn't refuse it either. So I wish him the best of luck in Houston. I think it's the right move for the team, whether or not he got the bag or not. I think the Raptors needed to move on, and they had to at least try to trust the roster they have without him. And I like the replacements. I like Schrader. I like Jaden McDaniels, and I think it's time for Scottie to ascend. And I will ask you about him later on. Um, Jakob, I think, is the right move to keep him. I think defensive centers are incredibly undervalued in the NBA, and I think that he will show to be worth the $20 million that he's been signed for. I don't think every center in the NBA has to shoot threes, and I hope that he proves everyone wrong. Um, so we'll see what happens, but I wasn't disappointed at all with free agency, and I was incredibly happy with drafting Grady Dick. And so I have high hopes for the Raptors, and I think they'll be a better team to watch this year. So we'll see what happens. I wanted to ask you about Banton. Now that you mentioned it, is Banton a big loss for the Raptors? I don't think it's a big loss, but I get the sense that Raptor fans are not happy with losing him. Is he a big loss to this team?
I think it depends on what aspect of big loss. I think from a PR standpoint, it's not a good look. Probably to save face, you're looking at probably needing to keep Doughton to save face so that you look like some of the things that you talked about in that end of season presser, if you're Masai and Bobby and co, that you look a little bit better because they kind of talked him up a lot. There's no real reason to do this. if you compare him to some of the other people on the roster that they could have moved, a good example is Joe Wieskamp. There's no shade against Joe Wieskamp, but you had a kid that is a hometown kid who has spent a little bit of time, not a ton of time, but a little bit of time in your development system, and who was coveted by the Spurs. I know people recently have argued with me about that, but there are stories. He was coveted by the Spurs. I recently talked to some people that are connected to the Spurs organization in terms of their media space, and they wanted him. They have repeatedly said, yes, we have wanted him. So, I mean, from that standpoint, it's a little weird because you kind of lost him to nothing. And I'm not saying that the Celtics see us as a rival. I think they more see Philadelphia as a rival. But I don't think most Raptors fans have fond memories of Boston in general. So yeah.
Yeah, no, to lose him to Boston really hurts. I liked him when he came up. He had a lot of injury problems. I thought that he could be a backup for us, but he never really got that opportunity. It seemed like every time he was going to get a chance, he got hurt, and then he just got lost in the shuffle. Doughton came along and took his spot, and that was it. I guess they had to clear up space for Fred, and they couldn't get him back, and so it's an unfortunate loss.
Well, you'll find out soon enough that Boston's not really like Rexdale.
No, no, they're not nice over there. So here's hoping that it works out for him.
Yeah.
Um, can you? Sorry, hopeful. I am so confused by this, and I really need your help on this. Why do Raptor fans want to trade Pascal Siakam? I don't get it. Like, if you look at the moves that the Raptors have made after the loss of Fred, everything that signals to me that they want to move on with Fred and Scottie. Sorry, not Fred and Scottie, with Pascal and Scottie. Why would you lose Fred, make the moves that you made after Fred, and then trade Pascal Siakam? I understand he has 1 year left in his deal, but why would you trade him if he's indicated he wants to stay and does not want to sign an extension with another team if traded? I don't understand the yearning for trading this guy. I don't get it. Help me understand.
Well, there's several things to it, right? And there's several factions. So there's the faction of people that just want to see something different. Fair enough, they've seen Pascal on this team in one way, shape, or form, and they've had enough of that, and they just want to see something different. I can't be mad at that, and fair enough. There's not really a concrete argument against that. If you're like, well, I'm just done, I'm tired, don't want to see these two dudes, fair enough. I think there's other fans that, or I'll say some people that are more closer to being analysts, or some are who are analysts who look and they do see. And this is where I'll kind of counter your last one of your last points about Jakob, where it's like, if depending on the lineups that you put out, Jakob, Barnes, Siakam is tough to build an offense around. Now, the interesting thing is that they didn't spend a lot of crunch time minutes. And so when you dig down into those type of numbers, it's like, well, are they actually going to play crunch time minutes? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I think there are ways to make it work. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I can understand seeing like, okay, well, you just got a guy and he cramps the spacing, and if you don't trust Barnes to make any sort of leap in terms of the shooting standpoint, then then it's time for Pascal to go. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I'm just, I'm outlining people's feelings, I guess. And then there's the other uh, faction of people who I think right now, some people just they don't watch a ton of basketball. They focus on the Raptors. They focus on every single rumor, and this is kind of like this is how they spend their time, their time every day. So
Mhm.
I mean, there's ways to like go into like that kind of question. I think if you're asking me like whether they should or shouldn't, it's more nuanced. I will just always err on the side of I don't think any player is untouchable. It's just you need to do it at the right time and for the right price. And right now, I don't think it is the right time or the right price that I'm hearing. So yeah.
Yeah, my thing with this Pascal situation is I don't think, and maybe it's because he's a rookie and no one knows who he is, but I don't think the new coach is being taken seriously at all. I don't think anyone's considering the new coach. I think people have forgotten we fired Nick Nurse. The new coach has basically come in and said this team's going to be a ball movement, screening, a lot of movement in the offense. We're going to be running a completely different offense here, which should really help tailor the skills of the players that we have, and will help set up better looks and a better offense overall than we ran with, which was ISO heavy under Nurse. And I don't think enough people are considering that. Now, granted, it's summertime. We've never seen this coach before. We don't know what to expect from them. But I don't think people are understanding that it's going to be a completely different offense without Fred and Nick Nurse.
Well, I
Which,
think
yeah,
people are attributing for various reasons. People attribute like, okay, you had, you know, you know, Fred and Pascal were the lead dogs on the last year's team, for better or for worse, right? And I think a lot of people are looking at it and they're saying like, okay, like Fred with the way his style of play, he was a contributing factor to that offense. They also contribute that to Pascal. And again, I just so you know, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here.
yeah,
But yeah, oh, there you go. So so yeah, I think that's where we're at, right? Like it's you're seeing a lot of people where they saw that, and whether it's fair or not, I think a lot of people are attributing Pascal to a large part of why they played the way that they did last year. I see things a little bit differently. I don't know how you see things, but I just feel I agree with you. We do have a new coach. I don't think that we need to like run every single person back. I never really thought that. But what I think we can look at other moves that probably may need to be made other than Pascal. Um, one such as I keep saying it on my shows, but I don't see we have a backup forward depth now issue where between Boucher and Precious and I guess now McDaniels, I don't know how Boucher probably specifically fits in if you're valuing the younger talents. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, so that leads me to my final question, and that's Scott Barnes. I believe that Scott Barnes, I can't see how, like, I believe he'll take a leap.
Mm.
I can't give you a reason why he'll take a leap, but I believe that there's improvement in this kid. I think with a new coach, who came from the Euro leagues, and if you know anything about Euro league coaches, there's a lot of ball movement in their offense. There's a
Mhm.
lot of passing in Euro leagues. There's a lot of teamwork involved. As Luka Doncic would tell you, it's much harder to win or score in EuroLeague basketball. It's a lot tougher. The referees are different. And so what I would say is that that will help tailor Scott Barnes' game better than it would be under a Nick Nurse. And therefore, perhaps he becomes a better passer, a better scorer. Maybe his 3-point shooting goes up a little bit because he might be open a little bit more. We have more 3-point shooters on the team now, so that would help with the spacing. What are your realistic expectations of Scottie, and will he make people forget about Fred VanVleet?
So I'm gonna stay away from like stat predictions here.
Yeah,
What I
that's fine.
what I yeah, what I'll say is like even if he puts up similar stats, I can see both him and Pascal playing in such a way that it ends up looking better and is more efficient.
Yeah,
And the reason why I say that is because number one, we actually have a better bench now. So that's the first thing is they probably don't, Pascal and Scottie Barnes could probably reduce their minutes by at least 5 or more minutes a game, and that alone is going to make a difference. It should make a huge difference. It makes a difference to even things like free throws, people, which I think is pretty important. The other side of things. Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand the question. So you're just in terms of his
what
improvements.
what I mean is, do you
Mhm.
expect improvements that we did not get from him last year this year?
Yeah, I mean, if it seems to me that they are planning to have him run or initiate offense on a more frequent basis. That may not look like how people think it will look like. It may not necessarily be the traditional pick and roll offense or something like that. It's this is where you need a creative coach like Darko. Yes, he spent time in the Euro leagues, but he also spent a lot of time in the NBA and created a lot of relationships in the NBA throughout the league under different staffs, including Mike Malone, and more recently on Memphis and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken, and also on the Spurs as well,
OKC. He was also in OKC
and
with
OKC as well.
With Dennis Schrader. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that there's sorry, I think there's a lot to look forward to, and with Barnes, I think that the playmaking it's going to probably improve throughout the year. The one thing that I would tell people to pay attention to for the first part is when he is handling the ball, how often does he pick his dribble up? I think he had a tendency to do that last year, and I could see him if he even improves that, that helps open up a lot of options for him. So that's probably the first thing that I would see. The other thing is that sometimes he tends to almost wait. He likes plays to develop on their
Yes.
own, and I can see him being a better like sometimes he might see something that other guys don't see, and I think he might be able to communicate that better. Not that he's a bad communicator, but I just think that the way that he is expecting things to open up, even just having more chemistry with your teammates and having more time with them will open things up. And then obviously, depending on how they stagger the lineups, you expect him and Siakam to finish better at the hoop. Siakam did a fine job finishing at the hoop with very little small margins. You expect the same for Barnes to improve. But like I said, Siakam was good. He can be better. Barnes was okay. He can be better because you're gonna have more shooters that you can put and stagger those lineups with. So yeah, I expect them to look better even just because of the team construction thus far. So yeah.
Yeah, I think ball movement is going to be huge. I think if
Mhm.
this is a ball movement offense that uses more back picks, I think that you're going to see an improvement, not just with Scott, but with the entire team. If their 3-point shooters work out as expected, if Otto's healthy, if Grady Dick shoots like he did in college or somewhere close and gets enough minutes to show that, if his relationship with Scottie is as good as it is now and becomes great on the court, I think you're going to see a whole new offense with this team.
I mean, not
I
not to get hyper technical. So, sorry if I interrupted you there,
Yeah.
but like not to get hyper technical, but you look at the transition stats with him and Siakam. Siakam's always been a great transition player. Um, Barnes has been a good transition player, but the thing is, you'd think he's better. And if you look at both stats, Siakam's actually the better ball handler in transition, and then Barnes is a better trailer man. Really, really like elite numbers, or
Mhm.
close to elite numbers. So that's a good example where it's like they can work together. There are ways to make them work. Heck, side pick and roll. I know people are like, oh, well, then so and so's in Barnes, position. But again, if you just start doing pick and pop, because guess what? Siakam can pop. And if Barnes can start getting back to the mid range efficiency that he was doing in the first year on lower volume, and he could do that on the volume that he did last year, that's a huge improvement. And for Jakob, my challenge that I keep saying is he doesn't necessarily have to be shooting. I mean, I would like him to be at least a potential shooting threat from three. I'm not expecting that. But what I would like to see is he showed a few flashes of mid-range jumpers and floaters and hook shots. And if he can get that, that opens up things considerably. Because then again, you're changing the geometry of the court. You're spreading things out a little bit. So I think that there's ways to make it work, but there's definitely two of the guys that need to improve in their different areas, and you need a bit of a smart coach to make it, glue it all together.
Yeah, I think that they're going to need improvement from Gary Trent Jr. They're going to need Grady Dick to have a good rookie season. But I think that the most important player for the Raptors
I mean,
this
If
year,
Gary's just consistent, right?
yes, well, not hot,
Like,
cold, hot, cold, hot, cold like Katy Perry. We need just hot. But Grady Dick being there might actually help Gary Trent because
mhm.
he's going to need to be consistent. Because if he's not, they're going to play Grady Dick. I truly believe that. And if he gets hot, he can take his spot. I don't think
Well,
that's crazy.
I'll put it this way. I'll put it a different way. If Gary is the same that he was last year, where he is at times inconsistent in terms of his jumper, when he's on those cold spells, you're not worried. The offense, you still have someone. You have that release valve potentially. I mean, we have to see Grady do it, but you, in theory, have a more release valve options, assuming that Otto doesn't play a full season, which he probably won't. And so
Right.
from that standpoint, and even if he does like play, they're probably not going to play him back to backs. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I think the we came up. I actually made the comparison. I said there, Otto is going to become our Iguodala,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Where you just
Yeah.
keep him in the background. He's training, getting ready for the play in, getting ready for the potential playoffs, and then that's when you break him out and he looks great. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that one of your points I wanted to point out. I think the days of Pascal leading the NBA minutes is over. I don't think you're going to see him play 37 minutes a game. I
I
don't think
certainly
this
hope
coach
not.
is going to do that. I think they're gonna curtail the minutes. They have a much better bench now. But I think with regards to Scottie, and I don't want to put any pressure on this kid, but I think this is the most important season of his career. I think that his improvement is more important than anybody else's. And if he can show even, I don't know what the percentage would be, but if he can show even marginal improvement in his shooting, that will open up everything else for the team. And so I think his development has never been more important than it is this coming season with Fred gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's his third year. It's going to be right before a rookie scale deal as well. Or rookie scale max will become potentially available to him. I don't know if he gets it or not. I think it's a little bit too early for that discussion, but I think that the future of the Raptors is highly dependent, regardless of what moves they make, whether they trade Siakam or not. It's highly dependent on Barnes, and it's highly dependent on Barnes to show that. And so, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I must say I believe in him. I have always
Mhm.
believed in him. I can understand doubters for sure, but my posting that I believe the Raptors will have a better record this year and possibly make the playoffs is because I believe that he will have his breakout season this year. So I hope he proves me right, and I hope he gets along with Grady Dick, who I believe will have a really good rookie season and will shoot the ball well because of his relationship with Scott and his ability to get open and get out on the break. I think that Grady's going to show us a lot this year. The fact that the Raptors wanted him all along and they didn't have anyone else other than, I believe, Kobe on their list tells me that they really believe in the kid and that he's going to get a real opportunity to show what he can do. And so I have a lot of belief in this team that I didn't have last year. Call me optimistic. I'm usually the pessimistic guy. I'm usually the guy that's, not very positive or have a lot of doubts. I'm actually really optimistic and excited to watch this team this year.
Did you say
So
you're not hopeful?
I'm not real hopeful, but this year I am very hopeful, and I have a lot of faith in this team. I'm still iffy on Masai. I don't want to go there right now, but my goal, what I wanted at the end of last year was I wanted Fred and Nurse to be gone. They're gone, and so now it's up to the rest of the Raptors to prove that that was the right thing to do, and to develop and become the players that they need to become without Fred there. And so
I,
I'll leave it at
I'm
that for the Raptors.
Yeah, I'll just really quickly just say I'm actually a little bit excited to see Dennis Schroeder. I know
Yeah.
that means like people might find that strange, but I'm actually quite excited. I've liked him in his career, so we don't. I know we don't have a lot of time to like go into that, but like um yeah, I'm excited to actually see him play, and he's always been a gamer in the playoffs. He always tends to show up, and he's a really good defender. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that. I was going to say he's a real pesky defender. He'll fight you
At
in
least
the
last year he showed that he
yeah,
could be. I should say
yeah,
in the playoffs he was one of their
yeah.
better point of
Feisty, will
attacks.
fight you. If he can shoot the ball, It's been between 38 and 32% a lot in his career. He is a very inconsistent shooter, but he can slash and get to the lane. And if he can show that he can make that shot from outside, it would really be helpful to the Raptors. So obviously they have some more shooters now, which is what we wanted. So now it's up to them to get it done. So that's my hope for the Raptors as I talk with hopeful. That is our show for today. I do want to just ask Hopeful before we go, what's next for you? What are you working on? I know that you have a lot going on in your life as you plan to be maybe a future trainer of the Raptors or maybe a future
No,
doctor of
no,
the
no.
Raptors.
We
No,
don't. No.
no, you're not going there.
Not going there. People don't need to know
No,
my personal life.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, I mean, not much. I'm slowing down with Basketball Rewind. Obviously, I will be, um, posting videos there, here and there. When FIBA really kicks off, I'm kind of slowing down to probably closer to once a week, once every, and then slowly slow that down to even once every 2 weeks. But there's always things that I think are important. The one thing that I will kind of plug again, I keep saying, I do think it is important that people, if you have considered, Canadian Blood Services, definitely, it is in you to give, I think is the motto. And there's also stem cells within that. It does help people. It goes a long way. So I think that those are always going to be the things that I plug and that are, I wouldn't say nearest and dearest to my heart, but like, fairly up there in terms of helping the community and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
yeah. I'd like to say for Hopeful, for myself, I really appreciated his mental health video that he did not too long ago. I think it's something that really needs to be talked about. I think it's something that is out there that needs to be discussed. And it was a great convo that you had about that. It's something that is not talked about enough that I hope that you raise some awareness about. So that was
Yeah.
great to watch.
Well, you know what? I actually, with you mentioning that, you didn't ask me it or anything like that, but I will actually shout that guy out. Music and mental health, Mark. He works in that space. He does a really good job. People definitely try to check out his channel if you get a chance. We do plan on doing like a follow up because I did have a chance to talked to Malachi Flynn at one point about like mental health supports in the NBA. I just have been kind of lazy and been focusing on other things in my life. So when I finally get around to that, because there's no real rush to do that, then I will let people, I'll put out the stuff. But yeah, music and mental health. I guess since I'm supposed to plug something, so I'll plug someone else's stuff, not my own.
Yes. I will say, check out Basketball Rebound. Check out Hopeful on Twitter. He's always great to listen to. Enjoy his videos, his breakdowns of basketball, and he's obviously open with other subjects as well. For myself, I really hope that you guys like, subscribe, and comment, and give me your feedback, positive or negative. I'm not one of those people who doesn't want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. I want you to tell me what you think. And let me know what you think of this show, as I really appreciate anyone who watches this show and gives me their feedback or comments. So it's the best respect you can give me, and I will respect you right back by always responding and letting you know that I hear you. So I'd like to thank Hopeful for coming on. I'm the mouth of North Andrew Reese, and we will see you next time on the Reese Report.